Hey, what's going on? Welcome to The Rational Live. I'm your host, David Dole. I'm on time today. If 3:30 was the time that the show starts, I would be on time. But in fact, I'm 30 minutes late. So I spent most of the morning really angry today. I learned this morning that our building manager, where I live, sent two technicians to every apartment, and they found out later that one of them had COVID-19. So I was around somebody for about 20 minutes who has COVID-19. Now, they had a mask on, I had a mask on, but it's been 4 days. Symptoms usually come around day 5 or 6. I'm going to be waiting, seeing what happens. I am incredibly pissed off. The idea that you would send out technicians to every apartment during the peak of COVID right now in Ontario, just completely ridiculous. So let's hope I don't get it. But I was damn close to this person for 20 minutes. So we will see what happens. But I will try to put that aside as I do the news today, because it's not going to be a good show if I don't. So I will try to put that aside, try to make light of it until we see what happens. Let's hope I don't get sick. All right. So let me check what we'll be talking about today. So Arizona voters are now less likely to vote for Kyrsten Sinema. I'll get to that story shortly. Amazon privately admits employees pee in bottles. Wonderful story. Get to that. Troopers arrest a black lawmaker for door knocking. Get to that in a second as well. And several other mini stories that I will touch on, including Tim Pool admitting he's a phony. That's a great story. And maybe a couple of Fox News clips. Actually, I got a Fox News clip coming up, but maybe another one. And I don't know. We'll see. As usual, I have a lot of stories I didn't flesh out, but I will touch on later on in this stream. So let me pretend that everything is fine and that I definitely don't have COVID. But let me get started. Actually, this first story isn't even really a story, so let me just play this for you. I saw this morning, and I laughed. Maybe you will laugh. I know. Most people don't want to hear of Donald Trump, but this was just a very random comment. Let's check this out.
It would have been burned down to the ground.
Are you
Those
concerned?
are the ones you have to worry about.
Are you concerned that the U.S. Capitol, after January 6th, has become a fortress, protecting the Capitol from the people who are supposed to actually be the ones in charge here, not the people who are sitting in the Capitol surrounding themselves by razor wire?
I think it's disgraceful. It looks for the world to watch. Absolutely. It's a political maneuver that they're doing. It was a zero threat. Right from the start, it was zero threat. Look, they went in. They shouldn't have done it. Some of them went in and they're hugging and kissing the police and the guards. You know, they had great relationships.
All right, that's enough. I can play the rest of the clip. The rioters were hugging and kissing the guards. Okay. This is why there's really no reason to do an actual story on Donald Trump. I'll play this for you for comic relief, but I'm not going to clip this out and do a video on this because who gives a shit? This guy's still fucking insane. So yeah, there you go. I don't know what else to say there. I have a hard time now. Like when I was listening to this, I forget the impressionist's name, but there's somebody who's really good at doing an impression of Donald Trump, and they're interchangeable. I mean, some of the comments here, this could have been an impersonator the entire time, based on how insane these comments are, but that's who Trump is. All right. Now to the actual stories, because that wasn't a story. This one I will actually not have to prep. I have it saved right here. Look at this. Ready on the fly. Almost ready on the fly. All right. All right. Here we go. Arizona voters are now less likely to vote for their Senator Kyrsten Sinema after her downvote on the $15 an hour minimum wage, showing that no longer can Democrats get away with being ultra-conservative and expect to keep their position. So there's a lot of data here, not even just one poll, several polls. But let me start here with Data for Progress. So they put out this week. Arizona voters support the $15 an hour minimum wage. So 61% overall support for the wage increase, 89% overall support from Democratic voters, and 54% support from independent voters. Now, this also translates to support or lack thereof for Kyrsten Sinema. So Arizona voters may be less likely to vote for Senator Sinema due to her opposition to the $15 an hour minimum wage. So this is posing the question that Sinema has said that she may not support raising the federal minimum wage. Will this impact your support of her? Well, let's take a look here. Yes, it will. So 60% of Democratic voters are now less likely to vote for Kyrsten Sinema following her downvote on the wage increase. And also 52% of independents less likely to vote for Sinema. And Republicans, I don't ultimately care that much about, but some of them as well, also less likely to vote for her because of her opposition to that. And Mark Kelly, the other senator in Arizona, his support much higher than Kyrsten Sinema, and he voted for the wage increase, showing you there is another way. As somebody in Arizona, you don't actually have to be a conservative to get the support of the people. If you support working class policy like a wage increase, the people will be there to support you. More data, more analysis here from Common Dreams. So with Sinema having won her Senate seat by just over 2 percentage points in 2018, and with the survey finding that only 42% of respondents view her favorably, proponents of a minimum wage are hoping political expediency will change the senator's mind. The verdict is clear, concluded Data for Progress senior writer Lou Blank. In Arizona, voting to raise the minimum wage is the smartest political move. To better represent Arizona voters and maximize her chances of winning re-election, Senator Sinema should embrace the $15 an hour minimum wage push for more stimulus. So this is a lot of this really was obvious before the election, before the American Rescue Plan went through. There was plenty of polling showing that, in fact, the most popular aspect of that COVID relief bill was the wage increase that was taken out of the bill. So the most popular aspect of the bill was taken out. So, of course, it's going to have an impact on voters who see the very senators that were at fault for that. And also, of course, look, ultimately the fault lies on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. If they wanted that in there, they could have fought for it. They could have fought to get these senators on board and vote for it. But essentially, these senators, including Sinema, Manchin, and others, sort of play defense for Joe Manchin and Kamala Harris by voting against that wage increase. EPI, the Economic Policy Institute, says implementing a $15 an hour minimum wage by 2025, as proposed by the Raise the Wage Act, would lift 3.7 million people in the U.S. out of poverty, figures with which even Wall Street titan Morgan Stanley concurs. According to the Progressive Center for Economic Policy research, if the minimum wage had kept pace with growth in inflation and productivity since 1968, it would be over $24 today. So there's plenty of analysis on this, plenty of data on this, that $15 an hour is really lowballing it, and it should be much, much higher. But even the bare minimum is not being pushed through right now under a Democratic White House, Senate, and House. Last poll here. So, as I said, multiple data points, multiple polls showcase that Kyrsten Sinema's support is dropping. So in this new Arizona poll, 57% support H.R. 1, the voting rights bill, 60% plus opposed to nearly all the GOP suppression bills, 46% say nuke the filibuster to pass H.R. 1. 42% say keep it. So a plurality of voters support nuking the filibuster to pass H.R. 1. And I assume also to pass other more progressive policy. 27 to 44% favorability rating for Senator Sinema, driven largely by unhappy Democrats. This data is across the board. Kyrsten Sinema now is much less popular because of her opposition to the wage increase in the COVID relief bill. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be broadcast through commercials, media, maybe, if they cover this. But people need to be aware of this. Senators need to be aware of this. That if you vote against policy that supports the working class, that people will recognize that, and you will be less popular because of that, and may in fact lose your seat over your rejection of those pro-working class bills. All right, that's enough of that. Let's check out the next story in just a second. Let me grab some random chats here. Also, of course, I didn't even do any of my prep. I'm so off today. I didn't tell you about the Patreon page, of course, therationalnational.com/join. I can barely talk today because my mouth is dry. I hope not because of COVID, but generally the air is really dry here. So that's also a problem. But of course, support the show if you can. You can also hit the join button below the video on YouTube. Also, many links below the video on YouTube, including a PayPal link, Streamlabs link, Patreon links, everything. So support the show any way you can. Kyle Kulinski did a video this week on how progressive media, or not progressive media, but independent media generally, is being suppressed right now on YouTube. And it's very, very clear. There has been a substantial drop since February. And part of it, yes, you can blame, I would assume, on the fact that Trump's gone and there's a new administration. But, you know, most of my videos were not about Trump. Most of my content wasn't really Trump focused, yet it's all been impacted by Trump leaving. So it's not about just Trump leaving. It's the fact that YouTube suppresses independent media while uplifting more corporate-friendly sources or corporate-aligned sources that they call authoritative news sources. This is public knowledge. They've written about this. They put out a statement, I think, 2 years ago now, saying that we are propping up authoritative news sources over, I'm not sure if they said over independent media, but they said they're propping up authoritative news sources. And you know what that means. That means corporate-aligned media. So, and you see it, I mean, clearly. Back in 2016, before the election, if you went and checked out, you can probably do this now. Go and check out videos from MSNBC or CNN in 2015. They barely broke 1,000 views. And then after, once YouTube changed their policy to prop up those voices, they got all the views. So it's the system on YouTube, when it comes to news and politics, is rigged in favor of pro-corporate media, which is so crazy when you think about what the point of YouTube was to have independent, different voices than what you saw on television. And now all that YouTube's doing when it comes to the news space is propping up what already exists on television. It's disgusting, but there has been a dramatic drop in viewership, in subs, all that stuff, and it's because of the algorithm that is working constantly against us. And I mean, across the board, I even think TYT, their numbers are down considerably. So it's really across the board. So support independent media any way you can. Support this show if you can. And all the links, again, are below the video. All right, let me grab some chats. I see some chats coming in. Samantha Sider gives me a thumbs up. Thank you, Samantha. Always a big supporter. Radzoso, also a big supporter, says, did you see that the piece Kyle did on CNN's Fareed Zakaria's scathing critique of the U.S. military? He nailed it. I did not see that, but that would be surprising. Not every day you see CNN actually nail a piece on foreign policy, but good to hear. Fanders says, David is awesome. Love Canadians. Do not let YouTube silence you. Thank you. I will try not to. Doing what I can. Okay. Let me prep the next story now. So I will be right back. Talk amongst yourselves as I prep this story. All right, that wasn't so bad. I'm back. Let me get to this next story. This is a wild one, I guess you can say. Amazon has had a really bad week on Twitter. Following the total embarrassment of Amazon executive Dave Clark, watch my video on that, I'll link to it above. A new report out details the absolute horrific conditions that Amazon employees are forced to work under, and this report came out after an Amazon Twitter account pretended that this was all just hearsay. So it all starts with this tweet here from Mark Pocan, who tweeted out, "Paying workers $15 an hour doesn't make you a progressive workplace when you union bust and make workers urinate in water bottles." Now, Amazon News, which apparently is a thing, replied to Mark Pocan saying, "You don't really believe the peeing in bottles thing, do you? If that were true, nobody would work for us. The truth is that we have over 1 million incredible employees around the world who are proud of what they do and have great wages and healthcare from day one." Now, before I even get to completely annihilating this BS, look at how worried Amazon is, both in how they are acting privately when it comes to their union busting efforts in Alabama. This is, of course, all over the union effort in Bessemer, Alabama, the warehouse there, but also their PR and how they act on Twitter. If they are so secure in how they treat employees, then why are they so worried about a union? What's the problem? This is all about power. Amazon does not want their workers to have actual power, actual say over their working conditions. If everything was great, everything was fine, they had nothing to worry about, then Amazon wouldn't be doing everything they can to stop this union effort. But they're doing this because they want total control over their employees, their working conditions, their wages. So, of course, this is complete BS. Because, yes, the peeing in bottles thing is a fact. And really a partial fact, because it's actually a little worse. So, Intercept here, great investigative report here by Ken Klippenstein. Documents show Amazon is aware drivers pee in bottles and even defecate en route, despite company denial. As I just showed you, if employees actually had to pee in bottles, Amazon said nobody would work for us. That's a lie. So they have plenty of evidence here. This is an email, an internal email. I'll read through this from Jen Snyder, area manager at Amazon Logistics. "Hello. This evening, an associate discovered human feces in an Amazon bag that was returned to station by a driver. This is the third occasion in the last 2 months when bags have been returned to station with poop inside. We understand that DAs may have emergencies while on road, and especially during COVID. DAs have struggled to find bathrooms while delivering. Regardless, DAs must not return bags to station with poop inside. We've noticed an uptick recently of all kinds of unsanitary garbage being left inside bags, used masks, gloves, bottles of urine. By scanning the OR code on the bag, we can easily identify the DA who was in possession of the bag last. These behaviors are unacceptable and will result in Tier 1 infractions going forward. Please communicate this message to your drivers. I know it may seem obvious or like something you shouldn't need to coach, but please be explicit when communicating the message that they cannot poop or leave bottles of urine inside bags. The health and safety of all DAs and Amazon associates will always be our top priority. None of us should have to deal with these kinds of messes. Please respond and confirm that you've received this email." Now, there's an obvious reason why Amazon employees are basically forced to do this. Haley Marie Brown, a 26-year-old resident of Manteca, California, who worked as a delivery driver for an Amazon delivery contractor, Soon Express, until quitting on March 12th, told The Intercept that the practice happens because we are literally implicitly forced to do so. Otherwise, we will end up losing our jobs for too many undelivered packages. So because of the pace of the work and what is required of Amazon employees, they essentially have no choice. They can either, pee and shit in a bag or on the floor of the truck. So this is the kind of conditions that they're forced to work under. This is why they need to unionize. The Bessemer, Alabama warehouse is really just the first step. The vote there goes till March 29th. Let's hope it's successful, but even if it's not successful, it is going to be a continued effort across the US, across Canada as well, where these employees recognize that they can have power. They can have a voice. They can push back, because this is not a way to live. Clearly, this should not be acceptable in any workplace. And the only reason that it is acceptable right now is because Amazon has total control over what their employees do. So Amazon employees need a union to be able to actually have their own say. And last thing here, you have this is now being widely shared by people like AOC. It's important that she jumps on this because of her massive platform. How many followers now? 12.6 million. So here she is tweeting out that very email I just read in response to the lie from Amazon News. So this is how people become aware of the kind of conditions that Amazon workers live under. This is how, knowledge grows, expands, and then turns into an actual effort to unionize and create some sort of power within the workplace. And hopefully this warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama can unionize. But even if they don't, this effort will continue. And at some point, I do believe that Amazon workers, warehouse workers, and maybe drivers will be able to unionize. Okay. What a wacky story. Just completely insane that this goes on, and we accept it. Third world conditions. Mark Jackson, you are correct. Did my camera just flicker? This is happening sometimes. I may need to replace my camera. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, let me check the chats. See what's going on. My mouth is really dry. I hope it's nothing. Really hope it's nothing. Man. Most of my morning was spent in anger. But in case you missed it earlier, our building manager sent someone with COVID-19 into all of our units and then told us later on. And I'll have to see over the next few days whether or not I develop symptoms. All right. Where was I here? All right. I got all the super chats. Let me grab some normie chats right now. The Flashy Brown says, when is the OnlyFans dropping? Never. I have a child now. I can't do it. Just can't do it. But hell, it would be a lot easier to do that than this. But then, there's another side to it. It's not really my area. What else here? Take a test on day 7, maybe. Yeah. I'm going to wait a few days, and then I think I will get tested. But that in itself is a whole process. And I have this weird fear of getting COVID while getting a test. Like, lined up with other people who feel symptoms, and then they give it to me. But, maybe that fear isn't weird. Seems pretty rational to me. All right. A lot of chats coming in. Literal Lil says, hi, David. Do you think net neutrality had an impact on how social media handles people's social media accounts? I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to sit with that question. You mean the ruling that happened like 3 years ago? I feel like not much came out of that, unless I missed the impact of it. But when there was that ruling on net neutrality, there was this, I guess, assumption that there was going to be a different way in terms of how ISPs actually dealt service or had you sign up for service, maybe restricting certain websites, that kind of thing. I have not seen that yet. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but I have not followed it too closely. All right. Take a little break there. Let me grab the next story. All right. This next one's a big one. Let me be right back as I prep it. All right. What up? I'm back. This next story is kind of insane, but let's get to it. Georgia lawmaker, Democratic Representative Park Cannon was arrested and charged with 2 felonies after knocking on the governor's door. So this happened during the signing of a bill that institutes more voter restrictions in Georgia. First, I'll get to the video and then get into more details. And by the way, this was posted by Greg Bluestein. Not sure if it's his video or not, but here it is.
Why does she have to step back?
The governor is signing a bill that affects all Georgians. Why is he doing it in private, and why is he trying to keep elected officials who are representing us out of the process?
Exactly.
I know you don't have any control over anything other than suppressing people's right to vote and using your guns and your abilities to talk.
Yeah, you said you give her one more time, like you're going to do something. Are you serious?
No, you are not.
No. She's not under arrest. What is
For what? Under arrest for what? For trying to see something that our governor is doing? Our governor is signing a bill that affects all Georgians, and you're going to arrest an elected representative. Why does the governor have more power than a representative? Why are you arresting her?
That's what I'm asking.
Stop
you.
arresting her.
Why are you arresting
Why?
her? Why are you arresting her?
Cite the violation. Cite the code. What is she in violation of? I want you to cite the code. Cite the code. Cite it. What are you? Cite the code. Cite the code. Cite the code. Why are you arresting her? Under what? Under what?
Back up. Get out of the way.
Under what law are you arresting her? Why are you arresting her?
All right. And then they drag her out, and 2 felonies. 2 felonies over this. You saw her knock on the door, and then they arrested her. Now, before I get to more details, this tweet, sums up a lot. Qasim Rashid here. When you're a violent white supremacist storming the state capitol versus when you're a black woman elected official knocking on the governor's door. There are 2 Americas. It's pretty clear. Just crazy. Now, Cannon was with several other protesters when she knocked on Kemp's office door, saying the public should be allowed to witness the announcement of the bill signing. The sweeping legislation requires ID for absentee ballots, limits drop boxes, and changes early voting hours. So there are many provisions in this new voter restriction bill. One of the more insane ones from Public Citizen here. In Georgia, it is now illegal to give food or water to voters in line. Why is this in the bill? So they're doing everything they can to limit the vote in Georgia. This is part of the reason why Democrats in Congress need to pass serious voting rights to ensure that everybody is automatically registered. There is none of this bullshit. Voting is a right. And the amount of restrictions here clearly from the GOP, they're meant to impact voters of color, minorities. Like it's obvious what all of this is about. They lost a couple of big elections a few months ago, and now they're doing whatever they can to limit the ability for these same people to vote. A little more here. Court documents show that Cannon was charged with knowingly and intentionally knocking on the governor's door. This is actually the charge. It's quoted. Knowingly and intentionally knocking on the governor's door during a bill signing and stomping on Officer L.T. Langford's foot 3 times during the apprehension and as she was being escorted out of the property. They were dragging her away. So I'm sure she accidentally stomped on or stepped on the officer's foot 3 times. It's amazing. Look at how soft these people are. He actually counted. He actually counted that she stepped on his foot 3 times. These people are so embarrassing. But this is I don't know how they're really pushing this through. It is so completely nuts, just on the face of it. And you saw the video. Last thing here. Canada was charged with felony obstruction. The January 6th insurrectionists were charged with trespassing. Like, just the completely different approach when it comes to a lawmaker here, a black lawmaker, just knocking on the door, wanting to witness this bullshit bill getting signed in, versus insurrectionists rioting and storming into the Capitol. Just a completely different set of standards. All right. I just got fun stuff left. Cool. We'll have a good time. So, let me see here. I think I saw a super chat. Zachary Fluke says, protect and serve who? Never, ever forget this and never, ever forgive this. Absolutely. All right. So this next story, let me see. How much prep do I need here? Not much of anything. Just a couple of links. I'll bring these up. All right. Tim Pool. This guy gets, last I checked, 100 million views a month. I have no idea. Like, it's one thing if you have charisma. Maybe Tim Pool has charisma. I don't know. I don't see it. But the man lies constantly. Like, and he's proven wrong all the time. Anyways, let me get to the story. Sort of jumping on the lead here. Conservative commentator Tim Pool, who I still think pretends to be center-left, admitted that he puts out fake opinions. Now, if you have seen some of his tweets recently, it's been a lot of weird stuff. So one that really stood out to me, Know Nothing put this out on Twitter. This one. Tim Pool is not really known for standing up for trans rights, but here he is on March 23rd. Trans rights are human rights. This threw a lot of people for a loop, just wondering, this is not the Tim Pool I know. Here are some other similar sorts of opinions. Impeach Brett Kavanaugh, also something not Tim Pool actually thinks. Bernie is correct. Again. Tax the rich. Then someone replies saying taxation is theft. Then he says not paying taxes is theft. So this would seem to fly in the face of most of what Tim Pool's commentary actually is. Well, I'm not sure when this was actually spoken, but here you have Merkin Muffley here sharing this clip, and this is fairly enlightening and really gives you into how Tim Pool operates.
I think I've crafted a strategy that creates a paradox that cannot be countered in any reasonable capacity. I'm sure there will be attempts, but the ultimate issue is this. I tweeted abolish the ATF. I tweeted abolish the IRS. Which one of those, if any, are my actual opinions? I also tweeted, there was a study saying that, Fauci said something like COVID lockdowns. Or they said something like, we don't know if there's ever going to be an end to the pandemic. And so then I said, okay, then release all the restrictions. There's actual opinions in there. Which one's the real one? Maybe you can come to one of my, podcasts and try and figure out how I really feel about things. Do I really want to abolish the ATF? I said abolishing the police is wrong. What's my real opinion? Go ahead and figure it out, journalists. You won't be able to, which means any tweet ever used by any publication from me will be them publishing complete bunk BS, because you will not be able to determine which one of my tweets is real.
Now, isn't the easy way around this just to pull clips like this one, like others, where he gives his opinions? Just because you tweet out all different opinions from all different sides. I'm not really sure how that's supposed to, confuse or elude the journalists that I guess he thinks are going after him, when they can just watch his show. And it's pretty clear what he thinks. But it is amazing to me the amount of support or views this guy gets for just constantly being wrong. I mean, I think every single channel now has a Tim Pool breakdown video where they're just completely deconstructing how he's just lying to people all the time. Or at the very least, as well, also props up certain stories that are really not important but makes them big issues while completely ignoring other issues. I mean, his complete defense of Donald Trump throughout COVID-19 was just completely absurd, but he will hold that opinion and then, go and pretend that he feels the opposite way on Twitter. But this is how Tim Pool operates. He's just somebody who's completely dishonest. At the same time, though, I guess strategically, it's maybe smart of him to take every position on Twitter, and then I guess maybe that can lead to more viewers on your show because people watch you thinking that you think a certain way, and then they view your show and realize, wait, that's not actually how you feel. But I guess it's a way to try and attract people from all different sorts of ideologies, but it's also just incredibly dishonest. All right. The stories today are kind of weird. But yeah, I covered most of the important stuff this week. But there's a bunch of other stuff I did not get a proper breakdown for, but I do want to share them with you. Before I do that, some more chats coming in. Let me check them out. Eric T says, David, what is that music you play when you take small breaks? It legit soothes my anxiety to the point where it even ramps down panic attacks. All right, Eric. I will try and figure that out. I actually looked this weekend because I know people ask this question all the time. I looked through to see where I probably saved the audio, and I think I found it, but now I have to re-find it. It's the problem. Should have put the link on the desktop. Would have been easier to find. No, those are my graphics. Man, I will help you out. I will. I know it sucks. I know it sucks not to know the music. I will tell you, as I look for it, it's on YouTube. It is copyright-free music, which is why I can use it. And, oh my goodness. Where is it saved now? Maybe it's on this. I want to find. I'm asked this question every week, and I'm just never prepared for it because, oh, is it one of these? Let me see. First of all, let me see if the audio should come through. Let me see. This is all copyright-free stuff that is saved on my computer for whatever reason. Oh, don't open Apple Music. Hold up. All right, what is this? Can you hear that? No, you can't even hear that. Okay, well, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. All right. I got to figure out how to stop it. All right. Here's the problem. I have no idea where I saved it. So at the very end, because this makes terrible television right now, at the very end, I will do another search. I will, and I will find it. But I'm not going to, I can't go through all my files right now, but I will find it. It's just, I don't know why it's hard to find it from my streaming program because it's not, hold up. Okay, here we go. It's called Memory Rain. That is the file name. Now, if you put that into YouTube Music, maybe you'll be able to find it. Memory_rain is how it is saved. Good luck. Good luck. And maybe I'll check later, because it really shouldn't be hard. YouTube has an audio, I think it's the YouTube audio library. And then you'll be able to find the other ones as well if you guys want the intros and outro. I'll give you those names as well. But anyways, let's get back to some actual stuff. All right. This story was just hilarious, but I'm not sure I could really make this into a segment. But check this. Let me go down here. Check this out. Mitt Romney is the recipient of this year's John F. Kennedy Profile in Courage Award. Wow. Whose life did he save? Well, it's over his vote to convict Donald Trump. He got the John F. Kennedy Profile in Courage Award because of his vote to convict Donald Trump in the impeachment trial. Doing the bare minimum. Acknowledging reality. Being rational in one of his votes, for once, gets the Profile in Courage Award. So absolutely embarrassing and completely absurd. Yeah, I can't really do much else with that story. I just wanted to show you that because it really shows you all these awards are bullshit. And you thought the Grammys were bullshit. John F. Kennedy Profile in Courage Award. Sounds like bullshit to me. This one. Let's check this out. This is quite the clip here. Quite the clip.
I think you make a really solid point about the sadness and the powerlessness that people feel in the face of this. And at some point, people are going to say, why should I follow the rules? Why should I be a good citizen if they don't have to follow the rules? I mean, things kind of break down at some point, don't they?
Oh, they will break down. They are breaking down, Tucker. I've said this before, and I'm telling you, I'm worried that I'm right. The right is going to pick a fascist within 10 to 20 years because they're not going to be the only ones on the outs. There's 60, 70 million of us. We're not a tiny minority. And if we're going to be all treated like criminals
fascists?
And all subject to every single law while Antifa, Black Lives Matter guys go free and Hunter Biden goes free, then the right's going to take drastic measures. And it's not.
How is Hunter Biden a representation of the left? This is a discussion about elites getting away with things. I don't know how, but they're so offended by this idea that there's two sets of rules when there are, when it comes to the elites and non-elites. Yes, there are, but left, right, working class in general are screwed. But they're so offended by this, by the left, that, oh, they're making me do it. You offend me so much that you're making me vote for a fascist. The perfect comic, somebody, actually, maybe the first reply to this. Here you go. This comic goes into how absurd all of this is. So, girl here says, my God, these Trump people are racist. This MAGA dude, that attitude is what's pushing me to be racist. Say what? Might as well. You say I'm a Nazi, so fine. I'll be a Nazi if that makes you happy. It doesn't. I bought this Waffen SS uniform for Halloween. You'll cry offensive, so maybe I'll just wear it every day. I just hate to do this, bzz, but I feel bullied, really. And there he is getting a swastika tattoo. Yeah, this is the right all the time. Always being the victim and then blaming everybody else for them being pieces of shit. Really incredible that they're just out here saying, yeah, we will elect a fascist or vote for a fascist in 10 years because of Hunter Biden. I mean, maybe there's more. Let's listen to the rest of this.
Then the right's going to take drastic measures. And it's not about Hunter Biden and his drug use. Nobody cares that guy was bumping booger sugar lines off European hookers on the weekend. It's about justice that he's never held accountable for, and none of the Bidens are. But you would be, Tucker, and so would I.
That's so well put. And you're absolutely right. We're moving toward actual extremism because they're undermining the system that kept extremism at bay. And I don't think we can say that enough. I'm so glad that you just said it.
First of all, I have no idea what Hunter Biden did. I don't care. Hunter Biden may have committed a felony offense. Okay. I guess he should be in jail then. Are you happy now? Now you're gonna vote for Bernie Sanders? Like, what do they want? The idea that the left is upholding Hunter Biden. They're the ones that turned him into a story. Nobody cares about Hunter Biden. Nobody cares. Notice after the election too, they had that Hunter Biden story. Right after the election, complete silence on Hunter Biden. Now I guess they're bringing him up again, but no one talked about Hunter Biden because it was never a story. Nobody gave a shit about Hunter Biden. Does not matter at all. I mean, are you really going to focus so much on Biden's son when Trump? I mean, how many freaking laws did Trump and his family break by having his family work for him? I mean, the total, complete lack of self-awareness here is on purpose. I mean, they're fully aware of how full of shit they are, but this is the BS they have to keep putting out there. Okay, what else here? This surprised me. And I refuse to give Warren credit because she has shown herself again and again to be a snake. But this in a vacuum, if this happened 5 years ago, before it was obvious who Warren was, it would have more of an impact. Warren grills Yellen over why $9 trillion BlackRock not treated as risk to economy. So let's check out this clip. It's shockingly good.
But it isn't just banks that pose a risk to the economy. In 2008, two investment companies, Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, failed, triggering the 2008 crash. So when Congress passed Dodd-Frank, they created the Financial Stability Oversight Council, or FSOC, and gave it the power to designate non-bank firms as too big to fail, or in the terms of the statute, to designate them as systemically important, which means they get the same stronger oversight as the too big to fail banks. Is that right, Chair Powell?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let's look at an example of how that's working today. BlackRock is the world's largest asset management firm, overseeing nearly $9 trillion in assets. That's more than double where it was 10 years ago. It also holds a stake in just about every company listed on the S&P 500. To put that in perspective, BlackRock manages more assets than the entire GDP of Japan, or Germany, or Great Britain, or any other nation in the world except the United States and China. And it's not just size. BlackRock also runs a technology platform that currently houses at least 10% of all the stocks and bonds around the world. So, Secretary Yellen, just hypothetically, if a $9 trillion investment company failed, would that likely have a significant impact on our economy?
Well, Senator Warren, I believe it's important to look very carefully at the risk posed by asset management industry, including BlackRock and other firms. And the FSOC began to do that, I believe, in 2016 and 2017. But the risks it focused on were ones having to do with open-end mutual funds that can experience massive withdrawals and be forced to sell off assets that could create fire sales.
Someone in the chat mentions Warren seems all right when she's not trying to run for president. Yeah, that seems to be the case. God, history could have gone so differently if she had just dropped out when it was clear she was not going to win any states, and then just backed Bernie Sanders. And then you would have had a completely different Elizabeth Warren. One with maybe some actual power. But she did what she did and got absolutely nothing for it.
It's not obvious to me that designation is the correct is the correct tool to address.
Well, now, wait just a minute. Designation is what gives the Fed its increased oversight power. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
And is BlackRock currently designated so that it receives that increased oversight?
It isn't designated, but I think it's important to understand.
So that means it is not receiving the increased oversight from the Fed. So my question is, are you currently looking at designation for companies like BlackRock, $9 trillion companies like this?
Well, as I said, FSOC has looked at this issue in the past.
I understand they've done it in the past. I'm not asking about what the last Secretary of the Treasury did. You are the head of FSOC now. And the question I'm asking is whether or not FSOC is considering and looking at designation for these large financial institutions.
Well, I think it's appropriate to designate institutions whose failure would pose a material risk to U.S. financial
stability. And that's why I started my question with, does potentially a $9 trillion investment company pose some risk to the American economy if it should fail?
Well, one needs to analyze what the risk is. An asset management company is very different than a bank. How do you analyze what the risk is if you're not actually doing the investigation through FSOC? Well, FSOC has undertaken such work in the past. And as I said, when it looked at asset managers, it issued a report outlining what it saw as some of the most significant risks from those industries. So I appreciate that they've done this in the past. Are you continuing that investigation now? Well, I'm just beginning a work program with FSOC, and certainly risk from asset management will be on the list. I understand that when the stock market is going up, it is easy to ignore risks that can be building up in the system. That was the mindset of the regulators that led up to the 2008 crash.
So, look, is this just performance, or will it lead to actual change? We will have to wait and see. I haven't heard an update on this yet, but it is, performances like this can have an impact. So, as I said before, Warren is not somebody I would ever trust, but actions like this can have an impact, and we will see if they do. All right. Let me grab some chats. Literal Lils, always a great supporter, says Mike Figueredo was in the chat and mentioned he bought an at-home testing kit. He wanted us to mention it to you in case it's an option in Canada. I don't know if those are available here yet. At-home testing Canada. I don't know. I know I was looking into this a month ago. I don't know. I gotta look more into that. I don't know. Like it's really frustrating how long it takes for just the most basic. Like a year ago, there were discussions about when are we going to have at-home testing kits, and a year later, and this is still a thing that apparently may be impossible to find in Canada. I guess we'll have to wait and see. And our vaccination rates here are garbage compared to how the U.S. is doing right now. Really very disappointed with how the last few months have gone in this pandemic in Canada. Samo says, thoughts on Representative Roy Chip terrible lynch statement? I did not see it. I missed that one. Lawn Gnome says, any thoughts on the transportation bill? Too soon? I also have not looked into it. You gotta wait and see. Francisco Pena says, did people went to sleep after Joe Biden won? I see less people getting involved in politics everywhere, even your channel. People don't learn. It's natural that after election, this is all channels, politics. Actually, this includes CNN, MSNBC. All channels are down. All politics channels after the election are down. But there is definitely it's worse for independent media because of how the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm works, as I discussed earlier in the stream. But the people that are engaged still are the ones that are always engaged. So it's the people that you expect to not be as in tune anymore are the ones that tuned out. People that aren't normally into this stuff, they're already out. But in terms of, people that were supporting Bernie Sanders during the election, those people are still paying attention. It's the average, I guess, lib that sort of has tuned out since. But that's always a process to try and get those people involved, especially if, a big issue is if you're not personally impacted by, how shitty the economy is or the pandemic, then, a lot of people just are not engaged in this sort of content because, it can be depressing to always know what's going on in the world. Very depressing. So I totally get it. At the same time, if you want things to improve, if you want society to improve, you do have to be involved. And that doesn't just mean watching videos, but involved in some way. So even if you aren't, watching videos, maybe you're involved in other ways. And I am losing my voice, as you hear. I think it's just the dry air. I need to see if I can test myself. Where was I? All right, let me see what other stories I may have saved here. This came out late. I think this came out this morning. So I've not gotten to this. Bernie Sanders introduces bills to lower prescription drug costs. So March 23rd. All right, I just missed this completely. But this one, I guess it's self-explanatory. I got to read more into it though. But obviously, the cost of prescription medicine is completely out of whack. Even, Canada, our system is not perfect. But when it comes to something like insulin is 10 times the cost in the US compared to Canada. And clearly there can be a lot of improvement there when it comes to the cost of prescription medication. What else we got here? This came out this morning. This is what I meant. Bernie's doing a lot this week. Never stops. Sanders pushes Medicare expansion in Dems' next big bill. So this, I believe, lowers it to 55 if it were to go through. Yes. 55 or 60. And to expand the program to cover dental work, glasses, eye surgeries, as well as hearing aids. So he is doing what he can right now. And I guess, he'll have to evade the filibuster or get it through budget reconciliation, some other bill. But that's one I'll have to look more into. But of course, that would be not a massive improvement, but an improvement in the healthcare system. And this one, kind of an extension of what I covered last week. Democrats now are Democratic lawmakers urging Biden to nix employee policy on past marijuana use after firings of multiple staffers. So I covered last week how Biden, I think they fired 5 people over past marijuana use. Just completely insane. And actually some pushback from Democratic lawmakers saying to stop this bullshit. Here is their reason. This is from the 24th. Here's the White House's reasoning for these firings.
Sure. So Vice President Kamala Harris says that she is a past marijuana smoker. She said, quote, "It gives people joy, and we need more joy in this world." She is with a clear majority of the U.S. population in supporting marijuana legalization. According to polls, 2/3 of people do, including about half of Republicans. Yet last week, the Daily Beast reported that there were dozens of White House staffers who were either disciplined or terminated from their jobs for past marijuana use. You seem to confirm 5 terminations on Twitter. And my question is, why would President Biden allow this to happen, especially considering the White House staff were led to believe that pot use would not be disqualifying, and especially considering the Vice President is herself a former marijuana user?
Well, let me first say that what we tried to do as an administration was work with the security service, who actually makes these determinations about about suitability for serving in government. In the past, and I served in the Obama-Biden administration, the rules were actually far more stringent. So that isn't about anyone's personal point of view. It's about working through the process, the history, and modernizing it and taking steps to address the fact that marijuana is legal in a number of states across the country. It is still illegal federally, right? We know that. There were, as I noted, I think in our comment last week, 5 individuals who are no longer employed at the White House. A number of them, there were other security issues that were raised. And, that's an unfortunate conclusion, of course.
Then what are those? If that was the reason, then why wouldn't you come out with that immediately and say that was the reason? It's because she's full of shit. And this job sucks. I mean, I'm not sure how old Jen Psaki is, but I'm sure she's young enough to know this is bullshit. But it's her job to go out here and defend this crap. I would never take a job like this.
Of course, but what we tried to do is enable additional members of the team who would not have been able to continue serving in past administrations to continue serving by updating our policy in coordination with the security service.
Follow up on that. Surely President Biden could, implement changes here unilaterally and just say that these people can come to work for him.
Well, I think if marijuana was federally legal, that might be a different circumstance. But I don't think I have any more for this on you.
Like, what's so crazy about this is nobody would have cared if they kept those employees on. So they just fired them under their own desire, their own will. Like, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, Fox, even Fox News, nobody would have gone after them for keeping employees on who have smoked marijuana. Yet here they are, under their own, for their own reasons, deciding to fire these employees because of their past drug use. Just completely absurd. All right, I think that's the last thing. I should probably get off anyways. So let me make sure I got all the chats, just to double check. And if I'm feeling up to it on Sunday, I'll jump online on Twitch. But I got to see how I'm feeling. All right, I got everything. All right, thank you all for showing up. And see you possibly Sunday. Again, Patreon page. Links are below the video. Support the channel if you can. We definitely need it right now. Independent media needs your support. So help me out. And I will see you next week. Goodbye.